Welcome to the Pathways to Prosperity podcast, where we explore personal, professional, and financial success stories of top achievers. Let's dive in.
Hey guys, welcome to Pathways to Prosperity for Entrepreneurs, the show where we spotlight innovators driving meaningful challenges. So I'm your host Tristan, and we're actually joined today by Michael Fieldson, the president of Ombra, a cutting-edge defense technology company with nearly 2 decades of experience supporting special ops forces. Sorry. Michael leads a team developing next-gen solutions in biometrics, space tech, and AI for the U.S. Department of Defense. We're diving deep into how Ombra is now pushing boundaries not only through innovation but also solving tough military challenges. So, how you doing, Mike? Where are you held now for? Where are you at right now?
Hey, so our headquarters is here in Tampa, Florida. So I'm in sunny Tampa. It's a great time of the year. It's not quite getting humid, and so I'm down here in Tampa. We also have another office in upstate New York, where I grew up on the Canadian border. But most of the time, I'm here in Tampa.
Okay. So, being in this space, right? So how'd you get there? Like, kind of give me a quick snapshot of like your business and like your background and how you kind of developed this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in upstate New York, and I joined the Navy back in the late '90s. I was an intel guy, and I did that for about 7 years. Got stationed down here in Tampa and finished a mechanical engineering degree. Got a job up in Columbus, Ohio, developing technologies for a large company. And then they sent me down to Special Operations Command here in Tampa, Florida, at MacDill Air Force Base. And so I was doing tech scouting for them for about 3 years, and then I became a government program manager, developing all kinds of cool technology, including the Iron Man suit. And then
Nice.
eventually, yeah, it was everybody loves that story. And then eventually, I left SOCOM about 7.5 years ago, and then started this company, Ombra, here in Tampa.
Okay. So I'm not really familiar, and I don't know if any of our viewers are. So kind of give us a kind of like an overview of what your company does, like what Ombra, like kind of what is that?
Yeah, so funny enough, Ombra actually just stands for umbrella. So when I left the command, SOCOM, the idea was to be kind of broad in the technologies we worked on. When I worked at this previous company called Battelle, we developed defense tech for everything from undersea type of technologies to special operations craft, all kinds of broad technologies. Some of it were testing for chemicals that might be in the air. And so the idea was I would reinvent that company or the business segment that I worked at down here in Tampa. So, the very first projects we worked on were touchless fingerprinting for using like a smartphone, being able to collect fingerprints, working with universities. So, the idea was, hey, we'll go out, we'll find research that's already being conducted at a university. We'll expand that and we'll really apply engineering rigor to that and then deliver that to the battlefield, to operators. Could be soft guys, could be Army, Navy, whoever.
Wow, that's really good that you're using right, like you said, you're already using other people's their education, like their research to now not only really help their research not only be successful, but now you're building that business. So you're having that foundation. You understand. That's really cool. That's actually really
Yeah, so one of our good success stories is we knew this university up in New York. They were working on this electrode you'd stick into water or soil and determine whether there's heavy metals, lead, mercury, cadmium, arsenic, all these different metals that you wouldn't want to drink or eat in the surrounding area. And so we took their research, we got it funded by the Air Force. We extended it so they actually finalized the electrode, and then we built 38 different other components that were used to build these kits. Shows up basically it's a mobile lab in a backpack kind of thing. And we delivered that to special operation force operators. So now they can go out, and if they're going to go deploy to a new area, they can go test the water and see if there's heavy metals that's going to make them sick, or the soil has some of these metals. So it's a good example of us taking technology that was in research and academia and then applying engineering rigor and then delivering an operational capability to the battlefield.
Yeah, that's actually really cool. It's like you're really bringing kids dreams into lives, right? Saving people's lives, and something that you always want to do, right? Be able to provide not only innovation but also provide like just the lives and the safety of your fellow comrades. But
Absolutely. And one of the things that we do here too is you mentioned some of the young people. We hire a lot of engineering interns. And so we actually give them an opportunity to come into our company, learn about things that we're doing. Some things are more sensitive than others, and we'll help them kind of learn about some of those sensitive things. And then, at the end, if they like working with us, we like working with them, we'll give them a full-time job after a couple of years of interning with us.
okay.
They end up writing a lot of proposals, and historically, engineers aren't very good writers. It's just not something we're good at. And so they learn how to write and how to communicate more effectively. And then what they'll end up doing is as I said, if they do well, they'll get a job here full time at the end of that.
I like that. I like that you're bringing that. It's kind of like what is it called? It's a they have a trade, and then now they're putting that trade into work. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
with a lot of competition, like what do you feel like sets you apart from other companies within the space tech or the security firms, security tech?
So I think there's a few things. One is my background in special operations, so I understand that community very well. I've been working with them for over 20 years, so I understand the history of that, and then also kind of where we're going. The other thing is we hired one of my old bosses at Patel. He actually ran the engineering group. I worked for him 20 years ago, and so he's had 40 years of experience developing technology, and so, when we're trying to figure out whether or not some engineering process is going to work, we don't have to relearn that. We already have somebody who's an expert in doing that. And so we've basically recreated that group here at Ombra. And he also is able to find some of his friends that are maybe they're retiring. And so they still have a little bit of work they want to do. And so we'll leverage all those. And sometimes those are part-time, sometimes they're full-time. But again, kind of some of the younger folks, some of the older folks, and we'll bring them together to be able to really, kind of teach each other. One of the big things, obviously now, artificial intelligence, some of the software tools, some of the older guys, they're not as familiar with it. So in a way, the younger folks and the older folks, they kind of are teaching each other in different ways. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, it's really cool to see like both generations, right? Especially the newer generation. I feel like that. I always say this all the time. I'm part of the young generation. We're innovative, but we're lazy, right? And then like the older, I'm not afraid to say it, right? And like the older generation,
Yeah.
like, they're just as innovative, but like they hone the craft, right? They've already lived the challenges. They're like, okay, like we can skip X, Y, Z, and they're like, oh, like
Right.
I like that. I like that. Like you bring that.
Yeah, and I think it's just that some of the other older generations just had different experiences growing up. When I was a kid, there was no cell phone, right? And so, my kids are growing up with cell phones in their hands since they're like 8, 10 years old, and so it's just different, right? And I wouldn't say it's laziness. I would say that it's just a different experience. And so we actually have 4 generations working here at Ombra. I've got a guy who's 86 years old that working here, and I had a 17-year-old. So it's really interesting to see how they all interact in meetings, and I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. It's trying to again teach some of the younger folks that for the next 10, 20 years you're going to be working for some of these older folks, and so you're going to have to understand what they're thinking for you to be successful in your career. And so again, it's a great opportunity here for us to be able to impart some knowledge on some younger folks.
So in your space, like what do you feel like comes easier to you that others might find challenging in really pushing your technology?
Yeah, so I think the easiest thing for me is some of the contracting, some of the bureaucratic government processes, because I did that for 10 years. One of the things when I was at SOCOM, my job was kind of to be a problem solver. So they moved me around every 20 months. As I said, I was working on the Iron Man suit. I started that up back in 2013, I guess that was. I was building drones back in 2009, 2010, before drones were cool. And then later on, I kind of came back and did that. And so they were constantly moving me around from place to place to place. And so I had to work with different contracting officers and lawyers and try to understand what I needed to do to make them happy and satisfy them. So we also work early on, we started working business to business, helping other companies do marketing or business development. And some of these companies had never done a single government contract before. And so some of the GovCon work, I was able to help them understand some of the vernaculars of what the contracting officers were thinking about. And so that's really easy to me, understanding the other side of the fence as opposed to maybe some of the people who are newer in this industry. They just don't understand what's contracting, what's the legal, what are they really asking me when they're sending these questions back and forth. So that's easy. On the engineering side, I've got a mechanical engineering master's. I've also got an MBA. So I understand those things at the top level, but then at the practical level, it's some of our engineers that we brought in, some of the more experienced people. So because of all this, we've kind of built an ecosystem here to help us really stabilize and grow to the next level.
So with understanding like what, like you said, you have multiple generations, you're able to really understand and hone into like the middle part. So what has been one of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome in your business? And like what kind of paint us a picture like how that started?
Yeah, I mean, so when I first started it, the idea was it was going to be an income replacement project for me. I left the command and I decided I was going to start this. And then, there's some young people that were here. There was, a couple of us in this facility. And really trying to grow from that initial stage of a company to kind of where we're at now. We have 34 people, I think, on the books right now. So we've grown significantly. You end up having some human resources challenges. You end up having people problems. You have people who started with you early on, and sometimes the company grows bigger than they thought it would be, or faster. And so, how do you handle all those challenges? I would say that's the biggest thing. There's always the how do we make sure we got the next contract so we can. When you're small, you've got payroll issues and all the other things. But I would say the people and alignment challenges are the hardest things to conquer as you continue to grow, because when you stay small, well, it's fun and everything, something bad's going to happen. And so you have to be able to get a little bit bigger so you can absorb, maybe one of your best people decides they leave because they want to go just do something else. Right. And so how do you kind of adjust to that? And so that's what I would say has been the biggest challenge really over the last probably 2 or 3 years. But I think we've stabilized, we figured out where we're going, and we're really building a good nucleus for the next level of growth.
Yeah, it's also I had another podcast and he was saying like the hardest part about growing is really making sure that the middle management is not only ready for it, but they're also knowledgeable. So it's like really kind of making them ready just in case it had to be as a manager role. And then like you said, one person leaves, that could make a pretty big dent, especially if you're smaller. So I love the fact that you're thinking, like you said, I mean, you've been doing this for 20 plus years, so you don't need to hear me say it, but it's good to hear that you're really thinking ahead and being able to not only be not you're not being reactive, right? You're not just waiting for that next step. You're really being not reactive, proactive, right? And that proactivity really will help companies grow. Like you said, you have 2 offices that are happening. You have 30 plus people, and now you're going to be even growing more, is what it sounds like. And being able to have those contracts, and if you take one small hit, it doesn't make or break you. So it's something that's a lot of business owners don't really see. They always think about like what's facing in front of them and not what's the next step. So yeah.
Absolutely. And if we don't plan for it, then we'll have to figure out how to solve that problem later on. And so, no, it's been a ride for sure. We've been open for about 7 years now, like I said, and so there's something new every day. There's a new problem to be solved. But we've got great people here, and everybody's aligned to what we're trying to do. And I think it's exciting time for a lot of people in the organization. We're building right now. We're building some drone payloads to be able to sense different things on the battlefield. We're actually teaching courses for special operations guys to understand what's available for them in space. And then we just found out that we got selected for award for a new propellant system for spacecraft using biological material. So there's always something new and interesting. Sometimes I'm like, we're doing what? But
What do you mean?
yeah. So it's fun. And we had some end users came by, and one of our smart interns, we had her brief the biological propellant, and the guys are just like, wow, I don't know what you're talking to me about right now. And so it was good. They were impressed, and we're doing some great work. There's plenty of work to be done in the DoD space. A lot of changes right now with what's happening with Doge and all these, and so My best friends still work at Special Operations Command. So you're kind of, I see, as a former government employee, what how would I feel right now if I
Mhm.
had this uncertainty? And so you hear that, but irrespective of all the things that are going on in the world, there's just still a lot of important work that needs to be done, and so that's where we're staying focused.
No, it's good. I mean, like you said, there might be a lot of like a lot of rustle around you, but if you stay focused, stay driven, like it's they might still be there, but it's not affecting you. So I know that
Absolutely.
hey, right. I mean, like there's been, like I said, there's a lot of uncertainty, especially with the it's only the first few months, and we're like, well, we don't know what's gonna happen now, but now it's like
That's right.
you're like we'll see.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you
Yeah.
have like you're in a good sector. I mean, we always need defense, we always need the military, and that's something that we've always been very proud of as a country, right? To be able to really provide not only the best amount of technology, but also really help our fellow comrades in the battlefield.
That's right. And some of the greatest technologies have come out of the military. So you think about the internet we're using right now,
Mhm.
that came out of DARPA, probably in the 80s or maybe 70s. So a lot of the technology we use every single day, it's started in the military or GovCon space and
Yeah.
then proliferated to other spaces. So and that's one of the things that we're focusing on too is how do I create something that's dual use that can help not just the military, but also the commercial sector. So that water testing tool, one of the things that we're planning to do is reach out to local municipalities and allow them to do some testing. So up in New York, up in Utica, New York, they're having some problems with some of their old pipes. So we've talked to Senator Schumer's office about going up there and doing some water sampling at some of the houses there and finding out whether or not there's hot spots within the community, and then working with the university just to verify our system is working the way it's designed to. So again, so we're a little bit broader than military focus. We want to find things that are useful to folks that are maybe in the pure civilian segment. So it's exciting, and because not everybody wants to work on the airman suit. Some people want to do other things. We had a project that we were working on for a little while. It was to detect PFAS, which is this chemical. It's used in firefighting foam, and
Mhm.
so it's really hazardous to people. And so we're working to develop that kind of technology as well. So pure civilian benefit there.
Well, I mean, in my opinion, it's like that civilian's kid might be in the military, and I'm thinking like, wow, like
Right.
even though they might not know your name or the company, they're like, wow, I remember this technology that really saved my family or help my dad really not only be an expert but also really save others. So it's like you might see it as like a as just pure civilian, but like I mean, in the future it could be that could be your next intern, right? He like, oh, I remember that one
That's
time
right.
this company really built this, and like you're like, oh yeah, we made that. Like, oh wait, really? So so
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
so as we talk about personal growth and the planning, it's interesting how successful individuals really plan for the future and beyond. Like, so how do you apply this foresight for like your personal investments, like not only financially but also in the business field?
Yeah, so I think you gotta constantly be growing, constantly reading, constantly learning new things. I try to be a big reader. I don't watch TV really at all, and so other than the Buffalo Bills, my favorite sports team, but
The bill.
so hopefully you're a Bills fan. But anyway, no. So I mean, try to spend a lot of time just investing in myself and trying to set big goals for where I'm going in the future, and that kind of drags the organization forward. I remember, there's been a few times in my career where there was somebody who was really pushing me to kind of achieve bigger goals, and so try to do that, not only for the team but also for myself. So really you get an opportunity to contribute to the local society and things like that. So those are the things that kind of motivate me. They're in the back of my mind. Is how do you help your church? How do you help your community? And so those are things that I'm focused on, and that's why I work a lot of hours, but that's okay because I enjoy it. They say it's not work if you enjoy it, and I've been doing this since I was 20 years old. Since when I was in the military, and so this is fun for me, and really it doesn't bother me to kind of drive myself to be a better version of myself.
Right? No, I like that. I like that answer. Always innovating yourself. Always like, would you say like the person that was a year ago is the same now, right? with the knowledge you
Well,
have?
it's I often think like in 10-year periods. So, in 10 years from ago, you think about where you were when you were 10 years ago, right? And then 10 years before that, right? And so I'm in my late 40s now. So 10 years ago, I'm still working at the command. I'm, probably working on getting a degree or something like that. 10 years before that, you're thinking about having kids. 10 years before that, you're in high school. And so, a lot of things changes in a 10-year period. And so I often think to myself, where will I be in 10 years? Where
Mm.
will our organization, what will our impact be? What will our impact be in terms of not just, the material solutions we create, but also the lives we change. And so, so that's exciting to kind of, think about the future a little bit, and really drive yourself to get there as quickly as possible. And possibly think about where you want to be in 10 years and then pull that back a little bit. How do I take time out of that? How do I accomplish those goals in 3 years or 5 years? Well, you have to really work hard to get to that. So, so that's kind of the way I kind of think of it around here.
Yeah, so I mean that's great. I mean, 10 years is, I mean, it's like people think like a year is long, right? And then you're like, oh wait, now we're almost like what? We're like in the third, fourth month of the of the new year already. And
That's right. Yeah,
you think it's like, oh man, I'll do it next time. And like there's like that thing, like you can't hold things back. So it's like really good to have that like that broader aspect. Because what I usually do is I say this is 1 hour out of 365 days. And I break that in segments because it's like you can do a lot, but it might seem a lot, but it's just breaking up those segments. And that's a mindset I've been having a lot
absolutely.
more. So
Absolutely. How do you break that down into like 15-minute chunks, or if you're a lawyer charging in 7-minute increments, how do you break that into smaller chunks so you get more chunks in the day and more hours in the week? And so, those are all the critical things, because the more time you have, the more you're going to get done and the more impactful your life is going to be.
So as we talked about like, increments and
Mhm.
planning ahead. So how do you do this for your financial investments? Like what does that look like? How are you putting that like for your generational wealth? Like you say you have kids, so are you putting money back towards like other areas and strategies for that, or how is that looking like for you?
Yeah, so I've been involved in real estate for a long time. I started investing, back in the early 2000s. So, I do a lot of single family homes, typical 401k, looking at new asset classes as well, honestly. And so, continue to look at, how do you set money aside, because at some point you're going to want to have, like you said, some generational wealth. You're going to want to have something, that can take care of, your children. I've got a boy and a girl. My son's 20, my daughter's 17. It's just crazy. And so how do you take care of them in the future? And how do you take care of their kids, right? And so, and that really just takes, a lot of, I would say, discipline, being discipline in your investments, and in setting those goals of where you want to go. There was, when I was doing my MBA, there was a thing called path goal theory, where they talked about, like, if your goal is, say $100, right? You probably won't get $150. You'll get, $87 or something like that. So whatever you set your goal at, you want to make it high enough where even if you fall short, you'd still be pretty happy. So that's kind of the way that I look at that. Again, multiple asset classes. I mean, I was government employee for a long time, so I had the thrift savings plan and, all these retirement plans and things like that. But I mean, I think the challenge today is that, for young people, there is no retirement plan per se. Like, you work so many years and you're going to get so much. My parents, had that opportunity. Some people that are a bit older than me had that opportunity, but nowadays it's really what you save. At our company, we do a safe harbor plan where, we put a certain amount of money in, to everybody's 401k, and really try to encourage them to know that they need to invest, and we'll help them do the math and understand what are the long-term impacts. When do you want to retire? What do you want available? What do you want to be able to leave for your kids? And just how do you take care of a lot of those things? Because people really talked to us about that when I was in high school, right? It was
Yeah,
all
right.
about, history and math and everything. So we try to be open with the people here and explain to them that you're probably going to need more than you thought you were going to need, and you probably never really thought about how much you actually need.
Yeah, it's like my mindset now is to be the Rockefeller of my family, right? So it takes that one
Nice.
person Yeah. It's like you said, they don't teach us that stuff, but
Right.
if you're able to do it on your end or my end, and then your kids, I mean, maybe your son doesn't want to be in the company, maybe your daughter doesn't want to be in the company. How do you really make that company work for you? And it's hard, right? It's like you said, we're in high school or we're in college, we're thinking about either going out, really seeing that nowadays social media is showing like, oh, you could be a millionaire within 5 hours. Um,
That's right.
and so it's really hard for
Yeah.
us to really like get quick money versus longevity. So
Well, I think it's just discipline, right? It's not spending money on things that are a waste of time. Understanding what's important. You gotta have some fun, but also understand, that you need to. The sooner you start saving, the easier life's going to be as you get older.
yeah,
You can really not, start too soon on that, and then the more you can. I mean, simple calculation. The time value of money. The more you put away early on, the better the interest rate, the better you're gonna do in the end. So, and I think that's really just an open conversation that, I don't remember people in my generation having that with the people that were older. It was because, and I think part of that was because you had a lot of people that were, our parents had retirement plans. They didn't have 401ks. They didn't have all these investment vehicles that are available today. There was no such thing as Bitcoin, right? And so,
yeah,
and so there's a lot changing very quickly. And so, I think what I like to do is try to, sit down with folks that are on our team if they want to talk about, hey, investment strategies, what should we be doing? Those are great conversations that, I'd love to have.
yeah. No, yeah. It's like there's no such thing as a pension anymore, right? There's a few
Right.
companies now. Like I know in California, there's a few, like Kaiser and also another company. That's because I'm in the medical space that do pensions, and that's like
Okay.
unheard of, right? It's like not
Yeah,
something that
that's right.
people. Hey, I'm always okay with the pension having maybe in the long term, but for our own
Uh,
company. But
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and a lot of us, even some of those older pensions, like so when the company I was with before, they had a pension and then they stopped contributing and then they tried to get everybody to buy out, to be bought out of the pension. And so even the pensions that were there, I think some of those are not as stable as maybe we thought they were when we first started,
yeah,
those organizations. And the other thing too is I worked with the government. There was a pension there, and they've really changed that pension as well. And so now that the buy-in is more, and I'm not sure that the benefits is there. And so it's I've got another friend who works in the government, and she's going to leave a little bit earlier than she wanted to, and so there's some multiples kickers at the end, and so she won't make that even though she thought she was going to make that. So
yeah,
I think the constant thing is you just got to be disciplined. You got to work hard. You got to realize there's going to be some bad things that have come along over time. And if you do a really good job of making yourself the best version of yourself, then you'll be able to overcome those things.
yeah. I love that. I love that. Being like thinking about who you want to be in the future and asking yourself, what will he be doing right now?
Absolutely,
I think like having
absolutely.
that vision, having that vision of like yourself, I think that's like it's a huge thing to do because then you're like, okay, like it's possible. I know I can meet this person. What do I need to do? So,
That's right.
so
That's
as
right.
we're
I mean,
wrapping up,
there's plenty of examples out there that there's people are doing well, and they're not just influencers. They're people just working hard and putting a lot of hours in, or some is they became fortunate at some point, but in general, I think the great thing is there's opportunity to see that it's possible, and that's what we're doing inside of our companies, showing people that it's possible to do the things that we're doing.
yeah, no, it's it's really hard to really start in the very beginning. Like you said, it took you 20
Absolutely.
plus years plus the 7 years, but now you're
Mhm.
able to help other individuals. No, I mean, like I'm saying, like it's now you're able to bring
Yeah,
that knowledge. I mean,
that's right.
but now like you can say that I've done it, and if I can do it, you can do it, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
that's the point, right? It's to show to give the younger generation that hey, I know it might seem dim now, but there's always with every type of darkness, there's always light that shines through, right? So.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So as we're wrapping up this interview, man, are there any exciting initiatives or anything in the works in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, so we've got a bunch of proposals that we're waiting to find out if we're successful. Some things I can't talk about, some things that are they're already in. One is using basically a TurboTax version of the security process. So we're kind of excited. That's kind of a arduous process. So that's kind of neat. Using artificial intelligence. So we've got a group that's doing AI ML for us. So that's exciting. We're about ready to kick off this 3D printing effort. So that's exciting. And that's with I guess the Army. And then we got selected to do a fly-off competition for the Army. So we're getting ready to go up there. These are $400,000 drones with a $300,000 camera on there. And so we're going up there to the Army next week. So that's exciting. So wish me luck.
Yeah.
That could be a huge contract where we'd be producing these things and providing great service to the Army. So that's probably the most exciting thing that we've got as I kind of think about the million things that we're doing right now.
No, I love flying drones myself, and not obviously they're like not that expensive, but I'd love doing like capturing like kind of like the scenery around me. I'm not doing anything else crazy like that.
Yeah.
If I try to fly my drone, you'll be like, "What is this guy doing?" So,
Absolutely.
but thank you for thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy man. If our people want to see your company grow and see what's happening, like where can they go through? Like what kind of social media or like anything like that?
So we're trying to be out there in a lot of different places. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram. You can check out our website at www.ombra.us. Yeah, just check us out. We're out there on socials. We're trying to be a little more frequent on the podcast and give back to help other small businesses with tips that we've learned over time. So yeah, check us out. Hit the link, and we'd love to connect with people, like-minded people that we can help out, either on the small business side or on the engineering side or in the GovCon space.
Cool. Sounds like a plan, man. Well, thank you very much for your time. It sounds like you're really cool, especially the drones. I hope that you win. Definitely show on social media about you guys flying the drone if y'all can. That'd be really cool. So,
Absolutely.
all
All
right.
right.
Well,
Well, hey, thanks so much for your time. It was awesome. Appreciate it.
no, thank you for being here and thank you for even coming. So, thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Pathways to Prosperity podcast. Got a success story to share? Visit pathwaystoprosperitypodcast.com/guest and apply today.